fiction, science fiction, horror, fantasy, crime, LGBT, thriller.
You have now entered the House of Mystery with your hosts, Eric Shapiro, David North Martino, John Copenhaver, and Al Warren. Heard on KCAA 106.5 FM Los Angeles,
102.3 FM Riverside,
and 105.0 AM Palm Springs.
Oh, welcome back into the House of Mystery. I'm Al Warren. Mr. Joe Goldberg is in the house today.
I'm in the house I'm ready to vacate for the holiday season and go visit some kids and the like.
Yeah, so what's going on with you? Where are you
Get
going?
out of the house. I got the lights on. I'm outside.
Well, the light's always on and you're never home.
Yeah, that's right. Let's go to Indiana, the gateway to Kokomo, gateway to Delphi. Great towns. It's a nice town. Nice.
You're leaving your books behind, but you're not bringing them with you, right?
I am writing, baby. There's no off switch on the authors, right, Mike?
Absolutely not.
No off switch.
No time off.
Maybe for the true crime writers, but not us real fiction writers.
No, I'm writing right now. I'm getting about 10,000 words in during this interview.
Good man. I would be too.
Yeah. Well, there's probably lots to write about here. You got a lot of personality going on here. So Mr. Mike McCrary, you've been quite the writer over the years here.
Try to. Thanks, Al.
Yeah, but I've noticed some of these. How did you get into this world of writing to where you're making it it's kind of like a full-time thing?
Yeah, it's not quite a full-time thing. So it's still got a day gig, but yeah, it's a long story. I actually got into writing through screenwriting. I wrote a script, my very first script, and it got optioned by a small indie production company, and I decided, I wasn't old, but I wasn't young. I was like 31, I guess, and I hated my corporate job, and I decided that I was just going to leave it all and go take off to LA, and did that, and moved to LA. Kind of banged around there for a while. I was a Hollywood intern for a while. Got agent, manager, and all that stuff. And was always the guy that was like one yes away. I'd have the meetings, and it would move up the ladder at various studios, and this person would like it, and this person would like it. Then the last person would say no, and that was always the money person, which is a problem. And I did that for years and got some assignment stuff here and there, but never was consistent. And I was getting really frustrated with it and had a lot of near misses. And my manager and I were having a drink, and I was always pitching these books to option. They were always crime books, noir stuff. And at the time, nobody wanted anything to do with any of that. And my manager said to me, why don't you just go write one? Had adapted a couple of authors' books for screenplays that nothing ever happened with, but I got to know some writers and what they were going through, and their complaints didn't sound all that bad to me compared to what was going on in Hollywood. And I did, and I sat down and wrote my first book, which was Remo Went Rogue. And it's kind of been on from there.
That's quite a jump from being a waiter in a dishwasher.
Yeah, well, that did a lot of that. I've done customer service phones. There aren't too many gigs out there that I haven't at least dabbled in. But it's good. I mean, I think all that stuff's great for writing. I think, the more successes and failures, the more different jobs you do at various levels, all that stuff. You meet all kinds of people. You learn all kinds of, various how things work and skills and things like that. I think it all feeds the writing.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I've enjoyed all of my waitering and dishwashing and all that.
Walking the streets, maybe.
Yeah, walking the streets. I was a streetwalker for years,
Selling organs. Yeah. It's what you got to do.
Well,
do what you got to do. So what was the difference between the screenwriting biz and the book writing biz? The actual writing part of it, the process part.
The actual writing of it, it's more format than anything else. I mean, it's a lot of, you do have to transition when you're writing screenplays. It's all show, right? You're completely writing for visuals because that's what movies are, obviously aside from dialogue and stuff. So when you get into what I had to learn and is more transition to book is getting more into the narrative style of it, where you do have to be a little more descriptive and you're in people's heads where you're not really in people's heads in movies, and finding the balance between that. Like my first shots at books, they were always, the word count was just very little, because when you're writing screenplays, you learn that you can write a full story in 90 to 110 pages with a lot of white space. You have to be very, very economical with your sentences, because you only have so much real estate to work with, and it's valuable in screenplays. And you can read some books and people will take 2,000 words to describe, a tree, and you don't get to do that in screenplays. So you have to kind of have to learn how to juice up your word count a little bit. At least I did.
That's why I didn't make it a screenplay, because I wrote 2,000 words to describe a tree.
He's the one.
You can't do that.
No.
You just say a tree. Yeah. That's pretty much what you get.
Oh. So where do you get your ideas from? Or first of all, I should ask you, do you have characters come to you first and then you're going to do something with them? Or do you have kind of a story or some theme and then you add characters later?
Yeah, I think it's been a little bit of both. Sometimes I'll just have a character in mind and I don't know what he or she is going to do, but I just kind of sketch out, the personality type and profession and backstory, and then I'd kind of find a story around that character. And other times I'll come up with like a log line, for an idea, and then I'll just go from there and then fill it with characters. So it's kind of a little of both. I keep like a Word file on my hard drive, probably like a lot of people that just have these random ideas that none of them really mean anything, and 98% of them are complete garbage. But, you kind of look at it from time to time and look, oh yeah, that one's nice. I can polish that up and maybe add that to something, or, take it and combine it with a different idea or whatever. But it's kind of all over the place.
And your characters then, or are they do they come from people you've known, you worked with, you've met, or washed their dishes or something? Is that
I've washed a lot of people's dishes. No, it's it's all the above. I one of the weird questions, you guys probably get this too, is like people always assume that you're writing about them, or at least like friends and family do. Like, oh, is my character in your book? Like, no, you're not. Like, I never write about any one person specifically. I might take like a job that I heard somebody's brother did, or some minor personality tick that I've known somebody from high school or whatever, but I rarely write specifically about, one person. It's usually like just kind of an amalgamation of different people.
So when you do write, I know you just discuss character and story. What do you pay most attention to, or how do you feel like use of language or setting or description of the character? What gets you going the most, but what do you think is the most important?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's a byproduct of the screenwriting thing, is a dialogue. I really enjoy writing the dialogue, and I think that's how you get to know the character first. I'll just write conversations when I don't really outline. I'm kind of a hybrid between a pantser and a plotter, but I will sit there and
Plancer,
yeah. So it's kind of, I'll sometimes, if I'm kind of stuck and I don't know who this character is, and it's something I think Tarantino maybe is where I heard about it on a podcast or something, where you just get them talking. You sit them down in a diner, put them across from whoever, and just get the characters talking about whatever, and write a few pages of that, and you kind of get a handle on who are these people. But descriptions, I stay kind of light on character descriptions, mainly because I just want the reader to kind of just enough to know who this person is, but they can kind of fill in the blanks on who they want it to be, I guess, in a way. Setting informs the character, but I don't really do a whole deep dive on that. Maybe that's a byproduct of screenwriting too, but a lot of it is just through the dialogue and actions is really how I try to get across who this person is.
So do you actually, in your head or in your mind, do you see your character, or do you have a relationship with your main characters?
Yeah, I guess in a way, when I'm setting up something, I'll create in OneNote, Microsoft OneNote, I'll create like these huge files with various ideas and whatever, but one of the pages in there will be pictures of, somebody from a movie or somebody or whatever. And they can be 5 different pictures from 5 different people, but this is kind of the person that I'm thinking of. It could be Cary Grant and, I don't know, Macaulay Culkin, but there's something about those two roles or whatever remind me of this character I'm going for. And I kind of go back to that. Rarely is it like one set person. I'm trying to think if I've ever done that, but I don't think I have. It's always been kind of just this combination of various characters from movies, or even the personality of an individual actor or something like that.
So, and so you're creating dialogue. How do you do that? Do you see it like a movie running in your head when you're putting it with your characters?
I do. Yeah. That's kind of when people ask me about the writing, I do see it, and it's kind of, but I'm just trying to write it down in describe it in the coolest way I can. The dialogue stuff, it really is, you just start with, or I just start with, who is this person? What do I want them to get across? What is their function in the story? And then kind of go with it and just see where it takes me. And then you just kind of find it, or at least I do. You just kind of find it. And really after the first draft, it's really that second draft that you really, or at least I do, really kind of get a feel for what the whole thing is. I'll write a first draft, and I'm kind of this is also another screenwriting thing where you do that first draft, which is kind of a vomit draft. It's, I just go, put the pedal down. There's not even a backspace on the keyboard, and I'll write the first draft fast because it can be horrible and whatever, and I don't care because I'm a better rewriter than a writer, I feel. So if I can get that first draft down, then I can go back in that second or third swipe, make it better and pretty.
So what do you do with your characters? Is it a good versus bad situation where ordinary people get put into a situation that they need to deal with, kind of like a Fargo kind of thing?
Yeah, a lot of that. Yeah, matter of fact, I'm watching season 5 of the Fargo TV series right now.
Yeah, I gotta watch it.
That's fantastic. Coen brothers, big influence. That's probably I tell people I write thrillers, but that's kind of, I don't even know what that means anymore, because genre is just kind of, you go on Amazon, every book has 15 different subcategories, and they're all true. So I write thrillers, but I've written psychological thrillers. Crime thrillers is probably where I was, born and raised, noir type stuff. And a lot of, good guys find themselves in Hitchcockian situations, or are anti-heroes that want to do good, that kind of stuff. I've written some psychological thriller stuff. I wrote kind of a near future thriller, 3-book series, a Marcus Murphy series. So I kind of play around in all the different thriller ponds, I guess. But that's, if I had to pick where my heart lies, it's with kind of the grittier crime, pulpy noir stuff.
Right. Or the good versus evil.
Yeah, good versus evil, but it's kind of a little more gray, the good isn't all that good. The good could be better, but it's, but the bad is worse, I guess is kind of what I like.
Yeah, I think of the grittier, more noir sort of stories as, it isn't always happy ending and not everyone's good.
Right.
There's, everyone's kind of in the middle and you see all different parts.
Right. Right. Yeah. I was raised with on the Elmore Leonard stuff. Huge fan of that, and kind of, and everything in between.
So in your book, you were talking about Someone Savage. Mm-hmm. Do you have that sort of outcome is this a story that doesn't have a happy ending then?
Well, you got to read the book, man. I can't sit here. What are we doing here?
We're going to go through each chapter, and you're going to tell us.
How about we just read the books? That's what we'll do right now. No, it's I will say it has a satisfying ending. I won't give anything away. I mean, it's definitely a grittier book. Definitely crime thriller. I had a blast writing it. The main character was so much fun to write, but it's, I don't know if I'd call it a true noir, but it's definitely kind of a, guy gets himself into a strange situation type of thriller.
Well, let's stay on Someone Savage. The impetus are kids.
Yeah.
That show up at his door, and right away people go kids, thrillers, situations. Sorry, have a nice day. Thank you very much.
Right.
Check waiter. So what is it? How did you feel about that?
Yeah, I mean, it's just take a step back. So it's about this guy Nicholas Hooper, who is a world famous author who has done extremely well for himself, but he's kind of found himself in a little bit of a rut. He's written a lot of successful stuff, but he hasn't written his true, opus that he wants to do. And he's a little bit of a mess. He has a little problem with the booze, has, few marriages out there that haven't worked out, but he's also gotten some bad news from his, doctor, who says, he's not really long for this earth. He got a bad diagnosis. So he's decided he's going to rent this massive house out in the Poconos and write his final book before he goes. And it's going all right for the most part until in the middle of the night one night, a young girl and a young boy knock on his door, and they're not looking too good. Looks like they've been on the run, maybe lived outdoors for a little bit, and they also refuse to speak, but they need his help, and he reluctantly joins in to help him because there's some bad people after him.
So you had the kids as a plot element.
Oh yeah.
How'd you feel about that?
I shy away from the kids in danger type stuff. There seems to be a lot of that, and I don't, as a reader, I will, if I find out, kind of like your point, if I hear that this is about, child murder or child abduction or things like that, I will kind of shy away from this. I saw this as more of like the movie Witness, the way kids were used, if that makes any sense. Like it's more of someone that you wouldn't normally, a character that wouldn't normally be a protector of children becomes a protector and a helper of children in the story, if that makes sense.
How do you show or display or even write your violence in a book?
I do a lot of it. Some books are more than others. Some to some readers' chagrin. Yeah, I mean, there's the earlier books were pretty pulpy, pretty kind of Tarantino-y with the violence. Maybe even over the top and stuff, but that was kind of the vibe though. And a lot of the books can be violent. I've kind of come off of that on different books just because it wasn't the way that the story should be, in my opinion. I've done different types of things that maybe, aren't as violent, and some that are extremely violent, but I don't try to get too descriptive with the gore, but it's, I don't feel like you have to be for people to be like, oh yeah, I get it. I don't describe every limb falling to the floor or anything like that, but as some might, but some people like that, but it's there.
Darn.
Yeah. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, darn for Al.
Yeah.
Darn.
Just lost 1 million readers right there.
I'll take him. I'll write whatever you want, guys. Well, and that kind of leads me to a question of, you mentioned your readers and,
sure.
And thinking about it. How much do you think about your readers as you're writing? Are they over your shoulder saying, oh, I like that, I don't like that? Or you just let it rip and the readers, they get what they get? Yeah,
when I'm planning, I like to read all my 1-star reviews and really, really dig into that. No, it's evolved over time. So it's, I tell people, like I've been on some panels and stuff, and I always tell people, like, there's writing and then there's the business of writing. And you could ignore the business of writing and that's fine, but it's kind of silly to do that. You don't have to I'm not saying sell yourself out and go write whatever is hot or whatever, but you do. To me, there is a sweet spot between what you want to write and what you do well and what people want to read. And to me, if you can find the Venn diagram of what that is, that's really what it's all about. So I do try to kind of think about what the reader is looking for in a book. Can't please everybody all the time. That's obvious, but I have gotten more of an eye for, rather than just doing whatever the hell I want to do, try to have a little bit of eye, like, okay, what book do I want to read and what book would other people like to read as well? I think it's, I think it's foolish to just completely ignore the audience when you read, but at the same time, it can be crippling if you're trying to make every decision to please every reader that's out there.
And evil characters, or the person that's doing the bad thing, usually in your books, do you enjoy writing that person? I'd imagine you would.
Oh yeah.
It sounds like it.
Yeah, that's the most fun. I mean, most writers I know, in the crime and the thrillers, that's where the good stuff is. But but the problem with that is you can spend so much time on the bad guy that you kind of leave the main character, the protagonist, being kind of vanilla and just this cardboard do-gooder. So you have to kind of pay attention to that, and maybe that's where some of the kind of the anti-hero or the gray comes in, where these people don't have to be perfect. They can have a little dirt on them too. But yes, to answer your question, bad guys are, for me, the most fun.
Well, let's make this a twofer. You write series and you write standalones.
Right.
The question would be, what's the difference? And something could be said about how much you've been able to flesh out your characters maybe in a series. But how do you do it? Because I'm sort of working on that myself right now, so I'm interested in how you plot out a series versus standalone books.
Yeah, it's really just kind of when you're setting up the original story, do you feel like there's more, is there more meat on the bone? Is there more story to this than just a one-off? Someone Savage is a standalone. I mean, sure, I could probably squeeze another book or two out of it, but it would be kind of, I don't know, silly in my opinion. It wouldn't make a ton of sense. But if you had the Remo series, there was things that could have, actually go back to that. The Remo series actually it's 4 smaller books. I won't call them novellas. They're probably a little somewhere between novel and novellas, but it actually takes place over just a handful of days and over 4 different books. So if you feel like you have some kind of, you have a full, complete story that you can break down into multiple books, that's really, I mean, detective novels are the simplest example. It's a new case, but it's really just, do you feel like you can do this for, 3, 5, 10 books? How is this character going to evolve over 10 books? But of course, now that I think about it, there's plenty of series where the characters don't really evolve. I mean, Jack Reacher, he's pretty much been the same for, what are we on? 20 books now? So I think it just really depends on what kind of story it is. Is it setting based? Is it plot based? Then your character doesn't really need to change or evolve all that much, maybe. I don't know. It's an interesting question. I don't know that I know the answer to it. But in my opinion, it's really, do I sit down and think, okay, can I write this over multiple stories with these particular characters? And sometimes the answer is no. And then I just, and that's how we go.
So you don't really plan out your series then? You're just kind of go as you go kind of thing?
Originally, no. Originally, it was just complete. All right, finish that one. What's the next one about? Which I don't know if that's the right way or the wrong way. But now, if I do sit down to write a series, I do try to be a little bit more methodical about how you're going to do this, like where we. And the other part is, I find it's hard with the series. Is like, it's difficult. Readers tend to get very hostile when you leave a book on a pure cliffhanger, which makes it difficult to, like, how do you, thread each book together in a series outside of like a detective novel or anything like that. So it's you have to kind of plot and plan. All right, I'm not going to have this guy, with a gun to his head at the end of book 1, buy book 2 to find out. That's just going to piss people off. So you do have, I think, if you're going to be smart about it, which I have not always been in the past, you do need to kind of figure out what's the arc of this thing. How is this thing going to evolve over a series of books?
Yeah, I was a dummy by second book, and it was a cliffhanger because when I got there, I didn't know how to end it.
Right.
So I said, give me more time. You guys finish it. It wasn't because I wanted to buy the third book. Whatever. It's like, you know what? I don't know what the answer is. I can sit here all day thinking about it. So let me finish this book, and I'll give me some time to write the next one. I'll figure the plot out for that. And I don't really hear too much feedback. Yeah. But it bothers me.
Sure.
For that very reason.
Yeah. Well, I think book 2, you can probably get away with that because you're in it. You know what? If they've read 2 books, good chance you're not going to be as mad with you get into the third one. But I think if you start book 1 with a major cliffhanger like that, I don't know if people are going to go to book 2,
Thanks for making me feel better.
Yeah. That's what I do. I'm a giver.
Yeah.
That's what we hear.
Yeah.
So on the overall, but do you have some sort of a system then to keep track of your characters when you're writing a series?
Yeah, like I said, I use OneNote a lot. I'll create like these files, and if I know it's going to be a series, I create a tab. When I finish, book 1 or book 2 or whatever, I'll write kind of a synopsis of where we left it with these people, and like a paragraph of this is what happened to him in book 1, and this is how we ended book 2, and so on, just to kind of keep myself from not losing my mind. Fortunately for me, a lot of the characters die from book to book, so there's only a handful that you have to keep track of. Spoiler alert, everyone. But that's the only way I know how to do it. I have no idea. I'm in awe of these people that write these epic fantasy books that are 600 pages with, all these economic systems and, class systems and God knows how many characters, and they do it for like 10, 15 books. There's no way. I have no idea how to do that.
And in your books, do you ever kind of have kind of a meaning or a subtext or something that you feel is important that lies underneath the story itself, even if it happens organically?
Yeah, I don't set out that way. I guess some writers do start out with some kind of theme or what they want to say. I start out with just, like we were talking about, the character idea, story idea, whatever. And it's not usually until I get to that, maybe even the third run at it, where I'm like, oh, that's what this is about. And then I will kind of maybe go back in and, flesh that out a little bit more, where it's not where I get what I was trying to say in this thing, but maybe, somebody picking up doing it, and to me, you don't want to beat people over the head with theme necessarily. Like, hey, this is how I feel. You want to kind of sprinkle it in there. And if they get it, great. If they don't, well, that's fine too. But, I really don't typically know the meaning or the theme until I'm, probably almost done with the book.
Well, let's go with that.
Yeah.
You said you're a plantser.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know the end, or do you know the end when you got to it?
I know.
So I'm writing to this point,
right?
Or you just say I get there.
Yeah, the process has evolved over time and is always changing from book to book. But I've kind of done this thing where I will make a pretty sparse outline, like a 10 point beat sheet, Act 1, Act 2, Act 3, and I'll have an idea for an ending. 9 times out of 10, that ending's going to change while I go through it. And what I'll do now is I'll write that first half of the book to the midpoint, and then I'll stop, and then I'll go back to the beginning and reread that first half, and then I'll revisit the outline. Because at that point, now I know the characters, I kind of know where this thing is going. What does that second half of the outline look? And it changes most of the time. Like, okay, all that stuff that I thought I was going to do the second half of the book, that's not going to work. Or I thought of something better or different while I was writing the first half of the book and change all of it. Or, that thing that I was going to, that third act twist, that's stupid. This is so much better. But to me, and this is kind of it's a great way to just write the first half. And it takes some of the pressure off mentally, like this mental block of, oh my God, I got to write a whole book. Like, no, you just got to write a half a book, and then you go back and you reread it, go through, make notes, think it through, and then you can kind of finish the rest of it. It works for me.
Mike. As you were saying the word pressure, I was actually writing the word pressure in my notes. So I was writing because do you feel a time pressure, or how long does it take you to do that? It's like, I got the 2 years to write this book. I need to get done in 6 months. Or what's the pressure from the point of view of the business part and the point of view from the writer part?
Yeah, I mean, it's I put the pressure on myself. There's not a ton of it's. I write pretty fast, so that's never been a huge issue. So, I mean, from idea to a finished book, I can probably get a first draft done in a couple of months. It's more the rewriting after that. So it's yeah, I mean, the pressure comes from within, I guess, not to get too fancy about it. It's more about just not making it suck. It's probably the main pressure, which is kind of it's a general way of saying it, but it's true. Just that pressure of putting something out there that's just not what I want it to be, or just isn't as good as it could be. That's probably the real pressure. The time stuff, like most of that, doesn't really bother me all that much, to be honest with you. I don't mean to hurt people's feelings, but I don't really, the amount of time it takes me to write something has never been that big of a problem yet. Knock on wood.
You're not as old as Joe, so.
It's true. He's nimble.
Yeah. Well, what makes a good book for you? What's a good story? What keeps you reading?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. I read. It's hard because I bounce between things like, oh, somebody told me about this book. This is really cool. I want to read it, just as a fan. But as a writer, and maybe, you guys have the same thing, you have to read a certain amount of things just to help you with the thing you're working on, right? So sometimes you're reading just for information or inspiration. Sometimes you're just reading for pleasure. But usually it's hard as a writer, but, give me something that I haven't seen 1,000 times, or give me something that I've seen 1,000 times, but give me a little bit different take on it. That's the main thing. I look for just good writing, exciting, energetic writing, but also just a different take on what I've seen. There's a million books out there, or even more than that, a gajillion books out there. And I just don't want to read the same thing over and over again.
Well, let's get away from reading then, because you brought it to my mind, because I sort of stopped reading and started listening.
Uh-huh.
I burned through Audible books, faster than I can buy credits. And your books in Audible, what do you feel about hearing your words spoken out loud? Yeah,
that's tough. Because personally, I don't listen to fiction, but I'll listen to nonfiction. I don't know why. But people love the audiobooks, and there's a book I wrote called Genuinely Dangerous, and it's pretty dark, and but it's kind of a dark fun. It's more like on the Chuck Palahniuk scale of dark, fun, weird kind of stuff. And I never really understood, and I'll read parts of that book when I do like Noir at the Bar stuff, and it always gets a big reaction. It's fun, and some people are kind of shocked by some of the stuff, and I'd like, what is your problem? It's not that big of a deal. But then when I heard the audiobook and somebody like acted out, I'm like, oh, now I get it. Now I understand people's problems. When I was writing it, I'm like, whatever. But when I heard somebody else read it to me and act it out, like, okay, now that makes perfect sense why people look at me strangely sometimes.
So you don't read the book back to yourself in an editing process, maybe?
I do in parts. But I don't know. It's just different. It's, I don't know, when you hear somebody going through the whole thing and somebody, like a really good trained voice actor that's doing it the right way, it just hits a little different. I guess it gets you out of your own head.
A shameless plug-in idea. I went to Speechify.
Mm-hmm.
I put my book into this. It's basically an AI voice generating. They have Snoop Dogg read your book back to you. And so I can hear it and go through the words, read it as I'm listening to it. And that really gives me a different sort of flavor of what I may have intended.
So you mean like through the editing process? You put Snoop Dogg
when
back to you?
when I'm in editing, I put it, I've gotten whatever draft I'm on close to the end maybe, and I throw it on Speechify and it reads it back to me, and I'm reading my manuscript and I go, oh, stop, that's bad.
Mm-hmm.
Or make a note here, the words are wrong, or I left something out just for proofreading. But when I'm hearing it and reading it at the same time, I get a different perspective on what maybe I didn't get across, or I was trying to get across, or go, ooh, that was a good one. How can I pick that?
Oh, that's a great
idea. So that's my new trick.
Well, I just stole that from you.
You can have it. This is my newsletter this month. So go to my newsletter, JoeGoldbergBooks.com.
Get the newsletter.
Have a nice day.
Yeah, on the same lines, there's a trick, and it's very simple, but somebody told me it a couple of years and it's like, duh. So I have a Vellum is the thing I use, but it helps you convert Word into like an ebook thing, and just the act of that, when I'm done with that third, fourth draft or whatever, just converting it into an ebook and sending it to my Kindle and reading it on that. Just looking at it in a different format changes everything. I'll do that for like a final pass.
Yep, I agree. I have Vellum. I do Vellum too.
Yeah.
Geez, I'm lazy. I do nothing.
Come on, Alan. You're better than that. You're better than that, Alan. Come on.
Not much.
No, I'm not. I'm terrible. I've been told. When you get ratings like that, do you follow your reviews and what people say? And especially like when you talk about other authors or maybe a magazine or even bigger entities other than just a person giving you a 1 or 2 star, do you actually follow all these reviews and comments?
You know what? I'd be lying if I said I didn't. You hear a lot of writers and people like, I don't look at reviews. I don't know if I buy that. And like, I haven't gone through every single rating on, Someone Savage. I think has almost 2,000 on there right now. I'm not going through all those, but yeah, I'll sometimes look at them. I mean, just I can do it now. It hurt. I don't feel anything anymore, but I mean, it used to hurt. Some of the 1 stars used to really kind of sting a little bit, but now you kind of look at them like, okay, whatever. But there was a panel on BoucherCon that was all about 1-star reviews, where the authors just got up there and talked about their horrible reviews and try to dissect and how you live through that. And there's, I would love to say, oh, you can learn something from them, but you can't. I mean, you can. I think it is a decent exercise to go back and look at look at the 3-star reviews. Those are probably the more honest ones. 5 stars are great and they make you feel better. I guess the 4 and the 3s are probably somebody's given, maybe if there is some feedback and you see like a theme to one of your books, or like a general, like you see like 20 reviews in a row that are saying the exact same thing, then maybe that's something you need to do, bring your ego down and really take a look at that. But other than that, yeah, it's just I either want to beat myself up or I want to feel good about myself. Depends on how I look at the reviews.
All right, just check my reviews. I got another one just today. So thank you very much.
Yeah.
Just remind me to check my reviews.
Yeah, refresh.
You got to look at the 1 stars. You find them, you hunt them down, and you take them out.
Yeah, that's how my averages have gone up.
I mean, what do
you hunt down the person?
Yeah. No, I think I used to, but I don't now. I look at the overall. Yeah. I think that's probably more how it is, because I don't want to get too focused on that either. You know what I'm saying?
And back to that other thing about, having your audience, you were talking about, having your readers in your head. Like you can't, if you take that stuff too seriously, it's going to affect just how you plan to write a book. If, some 1-star review in, I don't know, Omaha or what, didn't like your book, you can't let that crush your creative thinking. It's just that person didn't like it, to each their own, and let's get on with our lives.
And a lot of times it's a combination. It's where they're coming from when they read something and how they feel and their own world and what they believe. Like, it's not just a one-sided when someone actually writes a review, I think. But,
right. No, I agree.
What do I know?
Yeah.
How do each one of these books change you, do you think? Like when you look back at the process and each time you get through a book and get it published, do you think there's something about it that changes you in some way?
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know. Yeah, I guess so. I mean, strictly from a writing standpoint, I think every time you do one of these things, you get a little better, or at least you learn a little something on how to do the thing. As a person, I don't know. Maybe it's a combination of getting older and things like that, but yeah.
Yeah, because I'm writing true stories and I'm involved in real life characters. But
sure.
From what I see, a lot of writers like yourself that write fiction still get really involved in their characters. They live through them in a way. And what you put your characters through in a way for that year or 6 months or whatever it is to do a book,
right? You're
sort of going through the same things they are. You're feeling it. Do you know what I mean? Because it's real in that sense. So I was just kind of looking at, do you think it sort of adds to your character somewhat?
Yeah, I get what you're saying now. So yeah, I mean, there are points in the story, like there's been some emotional scenes in various books where you or at least I feel a little silly when I do get a little kind of teary eyed in some of the stuff that I'll do when I write those moments. But I think that means that you're doing something right. So I guess you do kind of take it away. It's hard for me to pinpoint exactly what, but there are specific moments where, especially like, if it's an emotional ending or it's a character that it's going away and that you don't really want to go away. I think if you feel nothing, it's probably not a good sign. You should probably
be like Joe.
Yeah, you don't want to be dead inside like Joe. That's
zombie.
Yeah, I'm a zombie. That's not
the apocalypse is coming. Stay away from me.
Yeah, you end up in a bad place, So how many people do you know that in real life that you've killed off in your books?
How many people in real life that I've killed off in my books? I don't know that I don't think
we want names and phone numbers.
Yeah, no, they know who they are. No. No, I don't know that I've done that. Because like I said, I don't specifically write to certain people. I think there's maybe some types of people that I've killed off in my books just for, my own psychological well-being, but I can't think of anybody directly that
radio hosts.
Yeah, there's
people like me.
There's some choice radio interviewers that I've talked to recently that might be going away soon, but no.
I'll give you some tips, Mike. I'll give you some tips on it.
Appreciate that, Joe.
Yeah, a real slow, painful way to go. Yeah. So setting. You don't really focus on setting. Setting is not a character in your books.
Some more than others. It's but yeah, it's not something I focus on too much. I mean, I think, when I say somebody's in the street of New York, I don't need to explain that too much. I think people by now know that. I setting the Poconos is in Someone Savage in the house. There was a fair amount of time was spent on that just because you just want to set up a world. But if it's not germane to what is going on in the story, or doesn't play a real big part, I don't spend a ton of time on it. Because again, I think people understand what a beach in Los Angeles looks like, and they don't need me to write, 6 paragraphs about it. Maybe I should. I don't know.
You ask people to look at your stuff as you're writing, beta readers as they call them, or just to bounce some stuff off some people. Hey, sit here. I'm going to spew out my plot while I'm thinking about it.
Some. I usually don't. Not too early in the process. I don't, because I just, even well-meaning people can alter how you think about something. I usually like to get a little bit further along before I start. I have some writer friends that I'll throw chapters at and say, hey, take a look at this. What do you think this looks like? And because writers, or at least if they're true friends, they'll tell you whether something's trash or this isn't working. I do have a beta reader team from an email list that I'll send it out to kind of, it's kind of a deal. They get the book for free, and they can kind of tell me kind of one, see if I screwed up some proofreading things, but 2, what do you think? Would you, that kind of thing. But yeah, other than that, no, not really.
Yes, I'm different. I mean, I just said to my wife, I was figuring out the plot of the thing I'm working on. Just kind of wanted to hear it out loud and see the reaction. I guess I'm more of an upfront sort of muscle or whatever it might be, put the effort into it, and then hopefully it flows as opposed to just keep chopping until I get there.
Yeah.
I do both, actually.
I can see that. Yeah. I mean, it's like I said, when I'm trying to flesh out an idea, I'm kind of protective of it, because even if somebody tells me, oh, that's an amazing idea, that's going to alter the way I think about it. I'm not going to be, criticizing it, internally. If somebody tells me, oh, that's amazing, like, oh, that's amazing, I don't have to worry about anything. I kind of want to get it fleshed out and really understand what it is before somebody else. Once you say it to somebody else, now it's open for, it could be changed even in a minor way. I guess that's how I look at it. Yeah.
It exists.
If I say it out loud, now it's a thing. It's not mine anymore.
Yeah, and your wife still isn't speaking to you after that last one, Joe.
I hear her packing upstairs right now. I've never killed a wife in a book. I never will.
Let it be known.
Right over there. My characters love my wife.
That is recorded. It is now a matter of record.
No, she's 10 feet away laughing, so I just got something going for me.
There you go.
Well, there you go. See, it's moved.
This has been, Mike, you've been good for my marriage.
Yeah.
Well, all right.
Well, that's your next book.
Mike's bad for his own, so I'm glad I'm helping him. Get it?
Well,
jokes.
So listen, where do people find you besides a really bad bar?
Well, that's not a bad place to look. MikeMcCrary.com. MCCRARY is the last name. I'm on Instagram. I'm Facebook, the usual places. I'm easy to find.
All the bad places. Listen, Are you doing any live events? You got any plans for shows next year?
I don't have anything scheduled yet. I just did the Texas Book Festival, did Noir at the Bar at that, which was a whole lot of fun. I usually do the BoucherCons and the big conferences. I may be doing a reading in February, but that hasn't been shored up yet. But I'm sure, hopefully, some things will hit up on the calendar.
You like doing those? Do you like that interaction with the shows?
I do. I really do. The Noir at the Bar stuff. I don't know have you guys ever been to one? Are you familiar with those at all? Do you know what I'm even talking about?
Yeah.
So I've done quite a few of them over the years, and mostly here in Austin. But it's a lot of fun. I always tell people, if you ever get a chance to get on a microphone in front of a group of strangers and say profane things, you take that chance, because it's a whole lot of fun.
Well, that's how I spend my life.
Yeah. Good for you.
Yes.
I remaining quiet. Censor myself.
Well, we really appreciate you being on the show.
Oh, no problem.
The book we featured is called Someone Savage, and it's an addictive suspense thriller. It's not just a suspense thriller, it's addictive.
That's right.
So it's the crack cocaine of thrillers.
That's right. That's exactly what it is.
Well, we appreciate you being here.
Well, I appreciate you inviting me. I had a lot of fun. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
You've been listening to the House of Mystery radio show. To find out more about our guests, hosts, or shows, go to www.houseofmystery.com.
Show's over for now.
Was it as good for you as it was for me? Well, good night.
This has been a production of Something Weird Media.
I'll be back.